All right. Next up, let's talk receiver. Let's talk receiver. So if you're new to this page, this might be a little, you might be questioning this. If you've been on this page before, you're gonna know this name. Devontae Adams. Wide receiver 11, wide receiver 10. I've seen his name all over the place. Why are we disrespecting a guy who finishes the wide receiver 10 with Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback for half the season and Aiden O'Connell for the second half of his season? What are we doing? How is Devontae Adams outside of your top 10 receivers? That makes zero sense. This is a player who's a 1,500-yard guy, consistently 10 touchdowns, had a down year with zero quarterback play in a year where his coach got fired, and he still put up 1,108 with 100 catches. And we're taking him outside of the top 10 right now? Even with Minshew, you see this quarterback. He ain't special. He's average. Minshew is average. But we've seen him throw 21 touchdowns before in his rookie year with Jacksonville. We also saw him 15 after he took over the starting role after Jimmy Garoppolo got benched. Not after Jimmy Garoppolo got benched. I'm switching teams there. We also saw him got 15 touchdowns after Anthony Richardson got hurt last season. Now, I think the TDs for sure are going up for Devontae Adams. I think the yardage for sure is going up for Devontae Adams. If you watch the show Receiver, you know things are going to change for Devontae Adams this season. The way he's clamoring for the ball, the way he really wants to score touchdowns, he's concerned with Devontae Adams. He ain't concerned with the Raiders. He ain't concerned with team success. He wants to be great. And it's probably one of his last prime years. If it's not this year, to be next year. This will be one of his last prime seasons. You can expect he's still going to get somewhere in 170 or 180 targets. Let's not kid ourselves here. Why are we taking Devontae Adams outside of the top 10 receivers? It makes zero sense, especially with all the question marks with the guys outside of the top 6. Devontae Adams is my wide receiver 7, and I ain't got no issue with that. All right, next up. Drake London. Now, a lot of people are probably down on Drake London. He's always done everybody kind of dirty. Like everybody hypes him up. He came out, was a top 8 pick in the draft, and hasn't lived up to expectations quite yet. He finishes a wide receiver 37 last year and was kind of expected to take a leap, but we had all them quarterbacks last year. Yeah, Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke came in. What was he supposed to do? He was still 900 yards last year. It wasn't 1,000, but he was still 900 yards last year. Now, you bring in Kirk Cousins. We changed the offense with Zach Robinson. The focus is getting the ball to premier players, and you get that major quarterback upgrade. A quarterback who was throwing, you go from a quarterback who was throwing like 2,500 yards, 3,000 yards to a quarterback that's probably going to be somewhere around 4,000 yards. Oh, man, wheels are up for Drake London, especially if he can get involved with the red zone. We know he has the frame. What's the comp? Mike Evans. If we can get 1,308 to 10 touchdowns out of Drake London, we're going to be very happy up there in the second round. So I like Drake London a lot, and I think he belongs firmly in the top 13 receivers, firmly in that conversation. And he's going to go right around some other questionable players, and I could see him being a value in drafts. Maybe you're even snagging him in the third round, depending on your league and your league's expertise. If you're smarter than your league, you're going to get him at a value. But Drake London should be able to reach high-end wide receiver 2 values on a weekly basis. Really excited about this Atlanta offense under Zach Robinson. And, this thing could really go for him, for Kyle Pitts, for Bijan, for everybody involved. It'll help, and especially Drake London. He'll get a lot of single coverage this season, more than he's probably ever seen. Next up, my boy was hurt last year, man. I took him early, and he was hurt last year. Cooper Kupp, man. I took you early. Took you early last year, and you burned me. The one phrase I'll never say this. He burned me last year, so I'm not drafting him this year. You will not hear that come out of my mouth. It's a brand new season for Cooper Kupp. And if we really take a look at what was happening last year, his major concern is durability. It's not that Puka Nacua is just like taking over. Cooper Kupp was hurt at multiple times last year. At the beginning of the year, when he tried to come back, he got hurt again. Matt Stafford was hurt in the middle of the year. So it's not like this was just a clean season for Cooper Kupp where he played every game and everything was roses and Puka Nacua just took over. He had 5 double-digit games to end the season. And most of the time when he was healthy, he was still playing at wide receiver 1 levels. It's still the same Cooper Kupp that we know and love, and he had some off games that we typically haven't seen from Cooper Kupp. But if he stays healthy all year, this is a player who's probably going to be a top 12 receiver, like almost at floor. If he's healthy all 17. That's the only question mark. And Cooper Kupp is going outside of the top 20 receivers right now. Outside the top 20. He's going like wide receiver 25 at times, wide receiver 24. I can't tell you that there's 24 receivers better than Cooper Kupp in football if he plays 17 games and was missing 2 hands. Cooper Kupp is elite when he plays. Elite. He's arguably a top 3 guy when he plays. So for him to slip down into your wide receiver 3 conversation, back in wide receiver 2, depending on your league side, is crazy to me. And you don't think this team knows that they got to get Cooper Kupp more involved? You don't think Cooper Kupp is clamoring and hearing all the offseason noise? I know he's older. He's older. And if you're worried about injury, then then take somebody else. That's the only concern you really have with Cooper Kupp. It's not that he didn't play well last year. It's not that Puka took over. It's literally he just couldn't stay healthy. There's a lot of players in the NFL that get hurt. If you're scared, go to church. Cooper Kupp, I got him firmly in my top 16 wide receivers. All right, 2 more receivers I got, and then we're going to get out of here today, man. George Pickens. Woo! One of my favorite wide receiver targets is him. I talked about Calvin Ridley already, so you won't hear his name on here. That's not who it is. But him and Calvin Ridley are probably my favorite, like wide receiver 4s to take right now. He had 1,100 yards last season. Bro, are we kidding? Like, what's going on? What's going on with these rankings, man? I think it'll hopefully by summer or by draft day, it doesn't fix it. You get him at a discount. But really, consistency has been the only thing that's held back George Pickens. Deontay Johnson is gone. So there's more available targets. There's a significant quarterback upgrade, whether it's Russ or it's Justin Fields. It doesn't even matter. The offense, Matt Canada is gone. And whatever you want to say about Arthur Smith, he's going to be much better than Matt Canada was. So a lot of the problems that George Pickens was dealing with are out of there. And he's had upgrades. Upgrade to the amount of targets he's going to receive, upgrade to his quarterback play, upgrade to the offensive play calling. Wide receiver 33? How? It doesn't make sense. This guy's probably going to have 1,300 yards this year too. So to get George Pickens as your wide receiver 3 with that type of upside is absolutely crazy. Now, maybe Russ struggles. Maybe Justin Fields struggles. Who knows? But both of those guys have had receivers that go well over 1,000 yards. We saw DJ Moore with Justin Fields last year. We saw Cortland Sutton go over 10 touchdowns with Russell Wilson. What are we doing with George Pickens and why is he down here? Why is George Pickens outside of the top 30 receivers? Somebody tell me. I don't have the answer for it. Somebody tell me. I just don't know. I cannot figure it out. This is one I'm like perplexed on. I honestly just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And maybe I never will. But shit, I'm going to have a lot of George Pickens in my league. I'm going to say that. The last 2 weeks of the year, he went 195-2 and 131 on the yardage. He had 300 yards receiving the last 2 games of the year last year. In the fantasy playoffs. Remember that. Week 16 and 17, not last 2 games of the year. Week 16 and 17. All right, and then my last player that I keep drafting, Chris Godwin. Wide receiver 37. How? Why and how? He was wide receiver 29 last year. In a down year, everybody was down here for him last year. He had 1,000 yards with Baker. The offense has now changed. Liam Cohen is there. from the Sean McVay tree. We talked about Sean McVay tree. What happens in Sean McVay's offenses? Cooper Kupp and Amon-Ra St. Brown had to happen to them. Slot receivers go crazy. What has Liam Cohen said all offseason? We are moving Chris Godwin back to the slot. How did Chris Godwin do in the slot before? In 2019, he was the wide receiver 2. Now, do I think he's going to be the wide receiver 2 this year? Absolutely not. But this is a guy that came off the injury, off the ACL, finally had a healthy year, and now he's the wide receiver 36. What? Like, bro, I just don't understand it. To me, if you can have Chris Godwin as your wide receiver 3 or 4, you're going to be money this year. Money. This offense is going to change. He's going to see so many targets out of the slot this year. I mentioned those names, Cooper Kupp and St. Brown. It's like maybe he doesn't reach that level of production, but imagine that at like 80%, and you're getting that at wide receiver 37. Who's doing these damn rankings? Why is ADP like this? Who are y'all drafting ahead of Chris Godwin that makes you think you're going to win your league when you got a player down here who's typically a top 20 guy going outside of the top 30? Chris Godwin, man. Draft him. That's all I got to say. Draft him. Ain't no risk to drafting Chris Godwin. Let me know how y'all think, man. So those are players that I love more than most. Y'all probably see these on TikTok driving people crazy, but let me know if you agree, disagree in the comments.